Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our Matchmaker session today. My name is Hannah Elgersma, and I'm the project coordinator for City Lab Hamilton. Matchmaker events are where we learn more about the projects that have been submitted by staff members and work with faculty members to try and find good student, faculty, and staff partnerships to tackle these projects. Today, we are joined by Jim Moore, Superintendent of Roadway Maintenance, District West, Andy McNichol, Supervisor of Road Compliance, as well as Adrian, Senior Project Manager of Operations. We will give them a chance to introduce themselves, but they're bringing us a project today to discover possible solutions to inspect and patrol segregated and non-segregated cycling facilities and lanes in Hamilton. So first, could you please each introduce yourself, your role at the city, and how your work impacts Hamiltonians?
I'll jump in first. My name is Jim Moore, and I am the superintendent for District West for the roadway maintenance section in our transportation division. I've been with the city for going on 28 years, the last 10 in roads. And part of my portfolio is the road patrol program, as well as I'm working with another superintendent and with our business initiatives and our CI group on this cycling program that we have. We're trying to figure out what we can do for maintenance, what we're required to do, what we need for staffing and equipment and budget.
Thank you, Adrian.
That's weird. I didn't hear Andy at all. Maybe it's so you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Adrian Kopchenko, and I'm the Senior Project Manager of Operations. I mostly am working on continuous improvement for the transportation division. So this is one of the continuous improvement projects that was identified out of a cycling workshop that we done in April of this year. So I'm more, Jim and Andy would be the operations and technical experts, but I'm here more just as kind of an observer and to also, attend as necessary and provide any information as necessary throughout the process. But because it is somewhat of a continuous improvement project.
Thank you. And Andy, do you want to try introducing yourself again there?
Okay, I'm trying to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's delayed, I think. It's just taken its time. So I'm Andy McNichol. I'm in charge of compliance for the Roads Patrol program here at the City of Hamilton. So currently our roads are patrolled as a part of regulated by the government, and so I ensure that we are meeting compliance in that area throughout the month, and it's on a 30-day cycle. So each road has a different class. At the moment, bike lanes are included in that, although it's very difficult for us at the moment to see any of the segregated bikes in our patrol system. And so we're hoping to, in the future, adopt a better system in which they can I guess, patrol these and according to class of road, and maybe there's some ideas that will come out of this.
Wonderful, thank you. So to start, because this conversation started between myself, Peter, and Adrian, I wondered, Adrian, if you don't mind giving an introduction to the challenge and how this topic sort of started the workshop and different things that build into this, the start of this project.
Sure. So Yes, like you mentioned, Hannah, you met with Peter Snowless, the manager of roadway maintenance, and myself, I think, a few months ago, and we were looking for kind of various topics to submit as a City Lab challenge. So this was one that I had mentioned before, that we had a cycling workshop in April, and this was, I think, the #1 top priority and kind of cross-departmental, cross-divisional challenge that was identified. So I guess the challenge would be, or what we were looking for is I'm just going to kind of read a bit of the submission form. Explore innovative ways of patrolling, inspecting, and maintaining cycling infrastructure. As Andy mentioned, there's challenges in the visibility with the segregated lanes, and then challenges with routing and planning, staff, and equipment. So we were hoping for, I guess, somewhat of a best practice, some research, maybe some research in what's done across other municipalities or throughout Canada, or even in other countries, and then some various solutions with new technology, and possibly, if possible, like a route map type thing. So that's kind of what we're looking for, and it's all in the submission form. And that's kind of how this project came to be.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's one of the pieces we can continue to explore, is kind of scoping this down, because it could take the more mapping route, or the solutions and costing route. So Andy, are you there still? You both together now?
Yeah, Andy's sitting here with me right now. So we're
Nice.
just listening and participating this way.
Perfect. So the next question, I guess either of you can answer, Andy or Jim. What are the current methods of inspecting and patrolling cycling facilities?
So currently, we have a patrol program for the roads. So it's done by class of roads. So as there's 6 classes of roads, 5 are under regulation that we are to inspect on either a weekly basis, like 3 times a week, 2 times a week, 1 time a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once every 30 days for the 5 different classes. So we currently, as we complete those roads, the patroller will observe the entire road, including the bike lanes. At that point, some of the challenges are, some of these are segregated lanes, or they're on the other side of parked vehicles, and so on and so forth. So as they drive, they wouldn't be able to see the lane, or have any sort of eyesight capability on any of the lane. The other sort of concerns is there's no regulations for, I guess, what we call MMS, minimum maintenance standards, for the size of potholes. They do not sort of correspond with what a truck or a car would sort of experience for this diameter and size of the pothole. The depth of the pothole in a bike lane would be, I guess, a lot smaller, would cause a lot more concern. So I'm sure in the future the government will be addressing those type of issues as we grow in the bike lane sort of industry, if you lack of a better term. But so we supervise or patrol them on the basis of we would for vehicle traffic, and really not specifically for bike traffic. Also, as I'm sure you'll hear, we've had a lot of other challenges in other areas, such as transit and so on and so forth, that have their own concerns around bike lanes, because they pull into them and pull out of them. How do the bikes actually pass them while they're in the bike lanes? So these are all things that were discussed at our meeting prior to this one. And I know the other representatives will probably be able to speak to them in the future when this project gets underway.
Yeah. So do either of you two have ideas of what other cities or municipalities are doing in this regard? Is like other technology that's being used, or a system of like right now it's being used the same one as the roadways? Is there a unique cycling system being used in other cities?
Currently not my knowledge. I mean, we haven't really, I guess, we've only had the one meeting, and it was sort of an internal process of how it's impacting each of our own divisions, whether that, like I said, transit, waste, road patrol, and just maintenance, the maintenance of these lanes. I was believing that maybe in your project here, you'd be reaching out to these other municipalities to sort of see what they're doing and bring back these ideas to the table as well.
Wonderful. I was just curious the initial understanding. So yeah, that is I'm looking forward to see what comes from that. What other are there any other like barriers you're facing regarding cycling infrastructure? I know you mentioned some of them here, the separated but the separation and but anything else you want to mention?
Well, I believe we probably had some of this conversation, but for the sake of others, snow removal. Currently, you know, our roads are designed to take everything down to the curbside, which is all where the bike lanes are. So we would push snow there. That's where all your drainage would go from storms. That's where all your catch basins are. So I believe that under the current system, as we sort of push our snow to that side of the road, you'll see that it becomes more apparent that that's where the drainage problem comes. That's where maybe people pushing snow back out of their driveways, they tend to put it at the curbside as well. These all tend to impact our bike lanes as they're designed in today's world. Maybe in the future, and you'll also see if we use sand, it also ends up there too, which is another danger for cyclists. So it's these type of things that I think we need to sort of either design through in the future. So we're doing them maybe a little bit differently. And there was talk of all kinds of sort of ideas put out there, whether we put them in center of roads, whether we have raised bike lanes, separate bike lanes, like we do in some cases where they're joint pathways. So they're not really on the road. They're up on a sidewalk joined by a cycling sort of pathway beside it, and so on and so forth. So I think looking to the future, the ideas maybe are there to redesign these, and included in there would be waste and our transit system and so on and so forth. Right now, we've kind of put them in, and we're discovering that, we can do a better job.
Yes. Well, it does sound like there's many conflicting challenges in this regard, but so what are from what you understand right now about what you're looking for, what are some of the specific deliverables that you two would find most helpful from a student group? Some of what we talked about are the research component, potential mapping, costing analysis of different options.
Now, I believe there's a mapping side that I'm not aware of. So as our initial sort of meeting was to sort of, I guess, bring the groups together so that when they were designing a future bike lane, they would reach out to us before saying, okay, we're putting a bike lane here. They would reach out to us and say, what are the challenges of each of the user groups, stakeholders, what are your challenges if we put a bike lane in this area? Some of it, as discussed, would be even the maintenance of it. We have to have the equipment that would travel through the bike lane. We discovered in some that were separated bike lanes that the sweeper machine was able to get in but not get out because at the other end it had narrowed. So I mean, it's just some forethought. I believe that it would be in order. So that we have started now through this initial meeting, that when they are going to design a bike lane, the powers that do that, they would reach out to each of the stakeholders and say, where are the challenges that in this area? Hopefully by that alone, we'll start to see better bike lanes. The other part is the patrolling of the existing ones or the maintaining of the existing ones. What can we do to, I guess, better provide service to these?
So the other side of that, Hannah, is we're hoping that the province comes out with clear guidelines for the MMS for bike lane specifics. That right there is kind of what's holding us up, because everybody's in a bit of a guessing game, not sure on what level they're supposed to be providing for maintenance, for inspections, for design even. So getting that standardized would be kind of the springboard for us for putting that program in place. Right now, like I said, it's just a bit of a guessing game.
Currently, if you look at say a class 1 road, we would inspect that 3 times a week. But if you were looking at a class 5 road, which had a bike lane, it would be once every 30 days for inspection process. So whether that's going to change, I'm not sure. And then again, the repair side of that is if we have an MMS sized pothole on a class 1 road, you currently have 4 days to fix it and so on. If you've on a class 5 road, we have a self-imposed 30-day sort of thing. But then again, the size is going to be the big difference, because a bike tire and a truck tire are 2 different sizes in themselves. So
yeah, certainly. We definitely feel a lot more of the bumps on the small tires.
Yeah, and so how do we move forward with I guess patrolling them? So, and what kind of resources it would take. So I think when they design them in the future, all that'll go into consideration, whereas it probably didn't in the haste to get the I guess them started.
Yeah, I hear that. And so as it relates to I appreciate having that context and even the examples of the classes of roads. As it relates to the student specific deliverables, what would you expect that work be used for by your team? And like what specific deliverables would be helpful in that process?
So if I'm to understand, CityWorks is designing a program in which they can sort of deliver this to the students that are coming in to the traffic engineering type program.
So this is an opportunity, I guess, for you to present ideas, and then the faculty will present what might be possible for their students. And so but to start, we just want to hear, and so we don't know yet which program might take this on, but we want to hear first what might actually be useful to your team in terms of like this. The students have a certain amount of time, and not as long as the scope of the project, because there's lots of facets to what you all do, but yeah, just curious what the work would be used for that you're looking for.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's always a hard question.
Yeah.
I mean, we could look at it from a maintenance perspective.
Yeah.
But again, without that MMS to kind of guide us,
Mhm.
for our timelines, I don't know.
Yeah.
Winter maintenance is something that they could maybe focus on in terms of looking at our existing maps, looking at other obstacles that we have along our bike lanes, like is there a sidewalk there? Is there a boulevard there? Are there multiple driveways there? Things like that. You know, are we taking the snow from the road, putting it in the bike lane, and then putting it on the sidewalk, putting it back in the bike lane, and then coming up with some sort of a system for removing it? Maybe we look at how they're interconnected,
Mhm.
what way that we should possibly be maintaining them for sweeping programs, for inspection programs,
Mhm.
for efficiency purposes, based on where they're located across the city, where we should have equipment stored.
Yeah.
That kind of a project might be something to consider. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of different aspects. And so what I'm hearing is some more knowledge and specifics and research that'll go into the different aspects of the maintenance work and the inspections. All right, well, we can continue to explore that with our faculty members here. Before we close the recorded section, is there anything else you'd like to add about this project?
I think we're looking at, I guess, from the design right through to the maintenance and patrol of these bike lanes. That we're probably looking at what's our best sort of options moving forward, and like you suggested, what are other municipalities doing, which I'm not sure at this point who's designing ours or how they're getting their information. It's for the mapping sort of side of it, but I believe that's where it all starts. I mean, if we're going to map east, west, north, south sort of routes, where are we going to put them? What's the best designs that are out there? And has anybody already worked through some of these challenges that we're experiencing today? So.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate all three of you being here and bringing forth this project. It's very interesting, cutting edge. Really, it's a very important topic as more bike lanes are being built, and as the council is saying, let's build a ton more. Yeah, this is very interesting.
Hannah, I just wanted to add to that. I'm not sure if Craig and Darren are aware, but yeah, council was just approved the accelerated, I think it's a 5-year, Jim, you might know a bit more, accelerated bike lane implementation, I guess. So more bike lanes, more staff to design those. They're hiring a whole whack of people. And yeah, it's a huge council priority. Active mobility and cycling facilities and bike lanes. So definitely something that's, like you said, cutting edge and not going anywhere, and there'll just be more and more in the future. So
yeah.
Just adding that context, but that was just approved, I think, earlier this year.
And you're right, Adrian, it is a priority for council. They fast tracked it actually to 3 years. So it was a 10-year project that we're now condensing into 3 years. So that in itself has a lot of issues, mostly with respect to acquiring bodies as well as equipment, and then figuring out how to maintain them. So we have a big crunch of bike lanes coming online, as well as trying to figure out how to maintain them and what we need, how do we procure.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I'll open up an opportunity for questions.